Hey, grade sevens. This is your video on calculating tax on products, which is our next step in this unit about budgeting and personal finance. So my camera is off this evening because I'm recording this quite late. But I want you to take a look at my whiteboard over here, and I'm going to guide you through this. So yesterday we learned about multiplying decimals for the reason of that I was going to introduce how to calculate taxation. Taxation is a really important part of our everyday lives, especially as we age and we become adults. But from the very get-go, it's pretty important because it helps us determine the true price of an item at the end of the day at the cash register when you are cashing out or online when you're purchasing your goods. So I created this kind of makeshift column over here of on the item that this person wants to purchase, which is shoes for $52.32. The person does not know the subtotal nor the sales tax total or the grand total, but we do have the information that's most important to this calculation, which is the tax rate. And the tax rate right over here is 5%, okay? Very important to know. We always need to know the tax rate when we're figuring out how to calculate the final price of a product. So I put a tip right over here of how we're going to look at the idea of 5% from over here and take it into something that we can work with. And as we get quicker with these, you'll be able to determine some of these things in your head a lot faster. And I'll teach you the mental math behind that a little later on. But for now, we know that 5% equates to 5 over 100 as a fraction because there's 100 pennies into dollars, for example, and this is 5 cents. So 5 over 100. And that equates to 0.05 as a decimal, okay? So that's really important information that we're going to need to know to help solve this. And I am going to have to erase this. So if you want to jot that down, you might want to. So the tip that we're thinking of here is 5% equals 5 over 100 equals 0.05. It's the same thing if the tax rate was actually, for example, 7% instead of 5%. That is 7 over 100. Please excuse my terrible writing. It's very hard to draw with a mouse. And I do not have a touch screen on this computer. So 0.07 is your final product. Again, let's kick it up a notch. Let's say it's 12% is your tax rate. That is 12 over 100. And this time that converts to 0.12. Okay, so it's not 0.012. That doesn't make any sense because that would be 1.2 cents. Okay, so 12 over 100 equals 0.12. So I'm going to erase this. And now we're going to start to calculate this equation. I think I'll go with black. So the cost of the item is $52.32. And your tax rate is 5%. Now, they have not given us the information as to how many pairs of shoes this gentleman bought when he bought this, or this lady bought when she bought this. So our subtotal can be assumed to be just the 52.32. Okay. If it said, another column here that said number of pairs of shoes 2, then we would want to know how much that would cost in total. So I'm just going to give you an example of this. So let's say this gentleman actually bought 2 pairs of shoes. And so what we would be doing here is we would be going 52, 32. Oh, it won't let me do that, of course. 52, 32 multiplied by 2 equals, and we would do the math, and that would become our subtotal. But because there's only one pair of shoes, we stick with the 52.32 as our subtotal. Subtotal means what is the total of all the products prior to adding taxation, okay? What is the total of all the products the person bought prior to adding taxation? This guy only bought shoes, no other products. He only went in there for shoes, only bought 1 pair of shoes. So the subtotal remains the same. So now we're going to look at the taxation. So the item is $52.32. And we want to calculate a tax rate of 5%. So there's our 5%. We remember how we got there. It was previously on this slide. And what you're going to do here is do the math of 52.32 or $52.32 times 0.05. So pause the video there and calculate with me, actually calculate yourself what the total of just the tax is. So how much tax is this person paying? Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen again. Okay, so now we are looking at the $52.32 times 0.05 is 2.616. Okay, that's how much tax is on this product if we're using a tax rate of 5%. Hopefully you got that answer too. But we can't necessarily leave the equation like this, okay? So what we need to do is figure out if we need to round up or down or leave it the same or what we're going to do with this. So we look to the right. I feel like I'm saying that a lot lately, of the 1, and we have a 6. So greater than 5, we round up. 2.62. So the tax on this product is 2.62 or $2.62 if we're saying it correctly. So we put $2.62 over here. So now that we know that the tax here is $2.62 and we know that the product is $52.32, I want you to take a moment to add these two figures together. Okay, so we're back again. I'm going to share my screen. So I've kind of outlined the equation right here just because I wanted it to be as neat as possible. And it's really hard, as I said, to draw with this mouse. So as the last part of this video said, we take the price of the shoes and we add the tax we calculated here. And our grand total is $54.94 for these pair of shoes. So we bring that information up to our chart and our total is $54.94. And that is how we calculate taxation in spending money. Now, if this was a normal shopping trip, he might buy only shoes, but this gentleman probably buys more than one item in this shopping trip. Then this graph would be longer and there would be more to calculate, and basically it would be increasing more and more. but this is a simple example of how this goes. So what I want you to try right now is a new problem that I'm going to share in a moment. Okay, so I have a new chart up for us, and it has now a new column added, and that new column added is just the one that says quantity. So quantity means how much of something. So apparently this is a baseball team that went shopping and they bought 2 balls, 4 bats, and 10 gloves. I'm assuming do you need 2 gloves or 1 glove when you play baseball? Apparently I don't play baseball much, so you'll have to bear with me on that one. So this is an important new step that we have because in our first problem, there was only one pair of shoes. Now we have multiples of each item. Multiples means more than one. And we need to figure out our subtotal each time prior to adding sales tax. So there's an additional step here to the math. So, so if we have a ball that is $4.21 in price, and this baseball team is buying 2, we need to figure the math the way that we instructed in our first lesson about multiplying decimal points. So I'll pause and let you figure this one out. Okay, so we have our subtotal being $8.42. Oops, sorry about that. So $8.42. And now we have to figure out the tax rate, the sales tax. And I did not give you a rate yet. So I shall assign the same tax rate just so we can keep things consistent. So our tax rate on this is 5%. So go ahead and calculate the sales tax on the 2 balls. Okay, so we've taken that subtotal of 842 and we've multiplied it by 0.05, which is our tax rate turned into a decimal, converted into a decimal, and we come up with the number of 0.421. Again, we're not just going to leave this as is. We're just going to look over to the right and we see that we can keep this as 42 cents. We don't need to do anything to it. So we take the 42 cents and we bring it over here. Write it down. I write mine like this. If you really feel more comfortable with putting just the 42 cents and a cent sign, you can also do that. Just find that it's a little more difficult. So I like the 0.42 because when we start to look through these numbers, and we adding them up, it just makes more sense to already have this in the correct decimal form so that they line up nicely when we're doing the total over here in this column. So I'm going to pause, and if you could please add your subtotal and your sales tax together. Okay, so our total in this column is $8.84. So what I'm going to have you do is complete the rest of the chart, please, and thank you. Okay, so as we just all discussed, this is the chart. I thought just in case any of your answers were incorrect, you could just take this down and have it as a record.